I don't have any fears at all. I just believe that if Pochettino come back, he will put a trophy in the cabinet, very, very soon. Yeah, I think that he would go all out to win something like the FA Cup and the League Cup. And I think that things would be done differently. And I think that at board level, things need to be done differently with Pochettino at the club, again, if it did happen. Pochettino must have more control, as I said. Lots of things do need to change. It would be a fantastic appointment, but it would be a pointless appointment if things didn't change in the right way. But putting trophies in the cabinet right now is very important to us Spurs fans. 13 plus long years without a trophy, a club like Spurs, with the infrastructure that we have, the new stadium, the training facilities, the likes of Harry Kane at the club, we need trophies. And I genuinely believe that Pochettino, if he would have stayed at Spurs the first time, he would have put those trophies in the cabinet.
Interesting words, damning words, I think, there from Simon Jordan, saying he can't cut it at Paris Saint-Germain. I think he's done okay. Look, they were 7 points off the top of the table. They closed that gap. Yes, ultimately they didn't win it. They didn't win the Champions League. Those are the two things that they have to win every single season, but they did win a trophy. But look, conversations have started between, it looks like, Mauricio Pochettino, we're led to believe that anyway, and Tottenham. Let's welcome in a man that I know desperately wants Pochettino back at Spurs. That man is Chris Cowlin. Chris, look, we speak quite a lot now, Chris, and every time we speak, the goalposts keep moving all over the place. One thing I remember, the first time we did speak, I remember going onto your Twitter page, and you had that picture of Pochettino saying, we want him back. You might get your wish.
You know what? He's got to be the man to come back. And Daniel Levy and the board need to please a lot of fans at the moment, because there are a lot of very unhappy fans out there. And if there's any man to do the job, and any man to please all of the fans by coming in and being our new head coach, he is the man, Mauricio Pochettino. He should never, ever have been sacked in the first place in November 2019. The board should have backed him. In his first season at the club, he got us to a Europa League spot. And then in the other 4 seasons that he was at the club, he got us into the top 4, got us to the Champions League. And of course, in the year that he was sacked, he got us to a Champions League final, didn't spend a penny in 518 days. You've got to back him. You've got to back him. And he is the man to take us forward. So I'd be absolutely delighted if he did come back. But I know that there's a long way to go. Yeah,
look, there is a long way to go. You're right. Chris, don't take this as me being rude, but why would he want to come back?
Unfinished business. He's said many times that he wants to come back. He absolutely adores and loves the club. That is the difference. He's got this real connection with the fans. The fans have got a real connection with him. And sometimes everything just clicks into place. And I was so sad, felt very, very down. And a lot of Tottenham Hotspur fans did as well when he was sacked. For what he achieved at the club. I know a lot of people will say, yeah, but he didn't win a trophy. We were so close to winning a trophy. And it's about direction. Every single Spurs fan, as I say, felt that connection. And it was about direction. And we were going in the right direction. And I believe that if he would have stayed at the club, we would have had probably a couple of trophies in the cabinet by now. But it's about direction, and the club need direction at the moment. And as I say, Pochettino would be the perfect man to give us that direction again, and belief.
Yeah, that's one thing, right? It is belief. I've spoken to a few French journalists about this, and they've all kind of said exactly the same thing, that if he desperately wants to come back to Spurs, it actually is quite easy. He just has to resign. If he resigns right now as Paris Saint-Germain manager, he can go back into the Spurs job. He has got a year left on that contract. If he wants to get into negotiations with Paris Saint-Germain and Spurs, then it's going to get a bit more complicated. Do you think he might just... Look, he loves Spurs. I think we all know that, right? I mean, we saw tears from him after the Champions League final, tears when he left the club. If he really wants to come back, it's easy for him to come back, isn't it? Just resign.
But then, yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if that happened. But there's another solution, that if he's got a year left on his PSG contract, sign the deal to get him back next summer. Put an interim manager in charge for this year and then bring him back next summer. Because, as I say, I believe there is, unfinished business with Pochettino. He loves the club. He wants to come back. And, it's probably the wrong timing for him personally.
Yeah.
We hear stories about Real Madrid now interested in him as well. Things are changing all the time, like you said. it's going to be very difficult. But I think there's a very long way to go. But as I said, if Daniel Levy wants to please the fans and he wants to get those fans back on side, Pochettino is the man to do that.
Yeah, you're right. There are a couple of big vacancies now, high-profile vacancies as well. None bigger than Real Madrid. Inter Milan, obviously Conte announced that he's leaving as well. You say, so look, there's going to be competition for that signature, and he's still even being talked about for the job further up the road in Manchester. So look, there are competition for his job. The thing with the return, and look, has it not been soured a bit by the way in which he was almost, like you say, kicked out of the club? Like that relationship with Daniel Levy, I mean, it can't be good right now between the two. Yes, he loves the club. Yes, he loves the players and the fans. Surely, though, that love can't be the same he has for Daniel Levy.
I disagree, Addy, completely. I think that there have been many reports, and even Pochettino has come out and said himself he speaks to Daniel Levy on a regular basis. They've got a very, very good relationship, and that might help this cause in him, coming back to Tottenham. Because as I say, it's not only the Tottenham Hotspur fans that love him, the board loved him. And I think that it was a very difficult decision for Daniel Levy. And, I think all of us fans want to hear the words from Daniel Levy in actually saying, I made a mistake. Yeah. He fell in love with Jose Mourinho. He wanted to bring Jose Mourinho into the club, and probably the timing was right then. But bring Pochettino back, you're going to have an awful lot of very, very happy Tottenham Hotspur fans. Can you imagine at the start of the season, Pochettino comes out at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and most of those fans watch the game all year? Honestly, the roof would come off. It would be electric.
No, you're right, it would. I mean, that's the one thing, that's like the big plaster to put over this massive wound right now is Pochettino being announced as manager of the club. And another good thing, I think, the reason I'm for it is that Pochettino, we know, can build teams. That's what he's done. He's built teams before. When you think of other managers coming in like Mourinho, where the team has to be there for him to win, Pochettino's okay for a 4 or 5 year project. Something he's not going to get the chance to do at Paris Saint-Germain. No one survives more than 2 or 3 seasons at Paris Saint-Germain. So I can understand why he's thinking, you know what? Probably best to leave. I mean, it didn't work out for Emery. It didn't work out for Thomas Tuchel, got them to a Champions League final last season. Why is it going to work out for me?
Do you know what, Addy? I've got to say this on this show, that if you're going to bring Pochettino back, then, you've got to back him 110%, because when we sacked him in November 2019, as I say, a lot of Tottenham Hotspur fans were very, very upset. You've got to back him. You've got to give him more control. I never forget during the Audi Cup, in the summer before he was sacked, he came out and said, I'm not the manager, I'm the head coach. So conversations clearly happened there. He's got to have some kind of control over transfers as well and bring the players that he wants to bring in. But by him coming back to the club, it will do wonders for the likes of Harry Kane, because you bring Pochettino back, Harry Kane will want to stay. He will want to play for Mauricio Pochettino, because he will have that belief again that we are going places and we will perhaps get over that line and get trophies in the cabinet. And of course, Dele Alli. As well, he'd probably get the best out of Dele Alli. So there's so many positives to Pochettino coming back. A lot of fans want him back. We didn't think that it would be this soon that he'd be coming back. I've got my fingers crossed. I've got everything crossed that he will come back, because I think that he is the right man for the job. And he is probably the only name that excites the Tottenham Hotspur fans right now, because all of the names that we keep seeing, nobody is exciting us on this list.
Chris, what about managers that have gone back? I mean, you can look through the list of managers that have gone back to clubs that, when they were first there, were successful. Jose Mourinho, second time round at Chelsea, wasn't great. Zinedine Zidane, second time round at Real Madrid, again, not great. Do you not have that fear that this is almost like, getting back with that ex, and you think it's always going to work out again, but the reason you and your ex split up was for a reason in the first place? Don't you have that fear?
I don't have any fears at all. I just believe that if Pochettino come back, he will put a trophy in the cabinet, very, very soon. Yeah, I think that he would go all out to win something like the FA Cup and the League Cup. And I think that things would be done differently. And I think that at board level, things need to be done differently with Pochettino at the club. Again, if it did happen, Pochettino must have more control, as I said. Lots of things do need to change. It would be a fantastic appointment, but it would be a pointless appointment if things didn't change in the right way. But putting trophies in the cabinet right now is very important to us Spurs fans. 13 plus long years without a trophy, a club like Spurs, with the infrastructure that we have, the new stadium, the training facilities, the likes of Harry Kane at the club, we need trophies. And I genuinely believe that Pochettino, if he would have stayed at Spurs the first time, he would have put those trophies in the cabinet.
Yeah, I mean, he was very close to doing that, wasn't he? You mentioned Harry Kane there. So do you think that's enough, though, really, to keep Harry Kane? Do you think Pochettino coming back with what will be a project that, let's be honest, I mean, you are going to have to spend money, like you say. Do you think Harry Kane's going to say, okay, I'm prepared to wait for, because he's not going to win anything his first season? Well, he might, but it'd be very highly unlikely. It's going to take 2 or 3 seasons to get them back to where they were with Pochettino, especially that team that got to the Champions League final. Is that enough to persuade Harry Kane to stay?
Addy, if you bring Pochettino in, I think that this will be a game changer. I think that Harry Kane will stay. I think that he will attract, some decent players in the summer as well. If Daniel Levy and the board give him the backing, let him go out and spend some money, I think that he will get Dele Alli and players like that playing, very well again as well. And, ultimately, we want to be in the top 4 again and play Champions League football the next season.
I asked you, I think it was a couple of days ago, about this Chelsea-Tottenham rivalry. I think you were very firm and stern on it. What if Conte were to come to Spurs, a former Chelsea manager? Is that slightly different? Obviously, Mourinho, I know, still got a lot of stick, I think, from some Spurs fans, and he was lucky that there were no Spurs fans in the stadium for half of his tenure there. But what if Conte were to come from Inter Milan to your boys? Would you be happy with that?
Do you know what? I always look at a manager, regardless of who they've managed before. I know a lot of Spurs fans don't like it if they've got connections with Arsenal or Chelsea, but I tend to look at people at face value and, look at their CV. If their CV says that they've won things and they've been a winner in the past, then why can't they come and do it at Spurs? And as I said, trophies are so overdue at Tottenham Hotspur. I think that, we just need to get over that line. So if it meant bringing in someone like Antonio Conte and you're going to win trophies, year in, year out, who's going to complain at that? Who's ever going to complain where they've managed before if they're going to be putting trophies in the cabinet? So we need a real leader. We need a real winner. And, we need ultimately someone to get us over that line because we want to see the glory days back again.
Chris, just before you go, I've got to ask you, in terms of sort of other transfer business, look, in an ideal world, you keep Harry Kane, you get Pochettino. Ideal. Both of those are going to be difficult. I think you can understand that. What else do you need? What else are you looking at the club in terms of transfers to kick you on next season?
We have to get someone in to replace Christian Eriksen. That is an absolute must. We need a playmaker who's going to create a lot of chances and a lot of goals for the likes of Harry Kane if he's going to stay. And defensively, we have been so poor this season. It says a lot with the likes of Eric Dyer not even getting in the England squad for the Euros. We need a whole new back line, basically. So there's a lot of business to be done. But of course, a lot of players do need to go out the door as well. I know earlier today, the likes of Danny Rose and Paulo Gazzaniga were released. But a lot of changes need to happen this summer. This is a huge, huge summer for Spurs. Lots of business to be done. But get Pochettino in first and hopefully he will sort it all out.
So many other managers I want to recommend to you, but I don't want you to shout at me because you're already sold on Pochettino coming back. So we're gonna leave it as that. Pochettino coming back to Spurs. We'll leave it at Pochettino coming back. I don't want to break your heart. Chris, as always, my man, thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate you coming on and giving us some time here. Chris is desperate for Pochettino to come back, by the way. He really, really wants him. What I was going to recommend was Graham Potter. Just because Graham Potter could possibly bring in Dunk, could bring in Ben White. I mean, that sorts all that, don't they, defensively? And I think he's a good manager. I didn't want to tell Chris that. I didn't want to tell him that. Not on air anyway. All right, when we come back, we're going to head back to Ripon for a final race today. It's the 3:35.